So my name is Megan Smith. I am a journalism major in the College of Communications. My advisor, Sam Kaufman, he's right over here. So big thanks to him and his patience with me and helping me pull everything together. So my Keystone project is a journalistic storytelling endeavor that's presented on a website is where the final product is. And the purpose is to raise awareness of domestic sex trafficking. And so that's through research, written articles, and then most importantly, through the testimonies of women who were once victims of the domestic sex trade but are now survivors. And so I chose In My Backyard as my title because sex trafficking, unlike how many assume, is not just an international problem. It is a problem that is here. It's in the US, it's in our own cities, in our own towns, it's in our own backyard, it's in our very own communities. And so human trafficking is divided into two different types. There's labor trafficking and sex trafficking. And both forms include force, fraud, and coercion. And so labor trafficking is for the purpose of labor exploitation, while sex trafficking is for commercial sexual exploitation. And so sex trafficking is actually the fastest growing and second most lucrative criminal industry in the world. And the reason it's so profitable is because, unlike a drug, a female human body can be used by a customer again and again. And so this is our form of modern day slavery. And the Global Slavery Index estimates that 36 million people are enslaved in human trafficking, which means that we have more slaves today than at any other point in history. So every 60 seconds, a woman or a child is trafficked for the purpose of sexual exploitation. And My Life, My Choice is a nonprofit here in Boston that is serving minors who have been exploited. And they serve hundreds of girls every year. And they say the average age of the girls that they serve is 14 years old, and they report that they serve an average of 10 to 15 men each night. And then their research asserts that 83% of the victims of sexual exploitation in the US are American girls. And so there are all these statistics and things that you can hear, but the goal of my project was to make this injustice personable by connecting with survivors, because I really believe that a deep empathy with the victims is what helps break the cycle of dehumanization, and that's how we begin to end sex trafficking. And so when you visit my website, one of the first things you're going to see is this preview kind of into my project. So we're going to watch that together right now.
Said he would fly me out there, and he did, but instead of getting me a round trip ticket, he only got me a one-way ticket.
You know, selling women was going to be his next hustle. You know, I didn't know that was his game plan.
And I was put on lockdown. I was under watchful eye. My phone was taken from me.
I was just totally disgusted and horrified, completely ashamed the first time I had to exchange my body.
So I was not allowed to leave his sight. Even sometimes going to the bathroom, I wasn't even given privacy.
And I handed over the money because he said, "Is there going to be a problem?" And I just said no. But I got very confused because that's when I was like, wait, are you my boyfriend or are you my pimp?
I was verbally assaulted, abused, and then sexually abused several times.
I wasn't handcuffed to a radiator, but I was in mental and emotional bondage.
This made me feel like I was like low scum.
Getting out of that victim mind frame takes a lot of work.
And so one of the problems is that when we think about prostitution, we tend to glamorize it and view it as a form of liberation or of choice. And then when we think about sex trafficking, according to Google Images, what we think of are literal chains. And neither of those perceptions are really true. The reality of sex trafficking and prostitution, and I group those together because really they're the same thing. International survey data reports that even women who do choose the life of prostitution, only 2 to 3% of those women continue to remain in that industry by choice, which means that up to 98% of women who enter prostitution by choice want to get out but cannot. And so the reality of sex trafficking is that it is a form of captivity, abuse, torture, and degradation. And so when we think about choice, we have to think about all the risk factors that lead to sexual exploitation. And we need to ask ourselves questions, things like who chooses to be female, who chooses to be sexually abused as a child, who plans to live a life of poverty or who plans to be in a home or in a foster care home that is so unstable or unsafe that running away from home really seems like the best possible option, because those are the risk factors of sex trafficking. And through my own experience in attending conferences and doing research, and most importantly, talking with survivors, I've come to personally define choice in my own way, and I see it as an informed and educated decision made among multiple available options from a place of freedom. And so the reality of what sex trafficking really looks like in the US is the most vulnerable people in our society being preyed upon by those who have more power. And so the process of exploitation, a pimp or a trafficker exploits individuals using tactics of recruitment into the lifestyle, initiation and breaking in, as well as control methods. And so for Jasmine, one of the survivors that I had the privilege of meeting with and really becoming even friends with now, which has been really, really special. But her recruitment looked like growing up in Revere, Massachusetts, and having a boyfriend who lavished her with affection and took her out to nice dinners. And for Jasmine, it really looked like falling in love and then being taken advantage of. And so I'm gonna let her tell you, sorry, I still when I think about their stories, but I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit about what initiation looked like for her.
I kind of thought maybe I would try. And so now I tell him, okay, I'll try. I'll go down to work in this massage parlor in Connecticut, but if I don't like it, can I stop? And he said, of course. So I go down to Hartford and I work from 10 a.m. until 1 a.m. for a few days in a row in this massage parlor that, again, right in the busy financial district of Hartford, like people walk by it all the time, all day long. And you know, the sex buyers come in, they pay a door fee, and then they come into this lounge area and they look around. There's probably about, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 15 or more girls waiting there in the lounge area. We're all dressed in skimpy dresses and high heel stilettos, and they pick a girl and you go back to the other side of the place and there's all rooms with beds in it. And you know, you just do this over and over and over again all day. I was just totally disgusted and horrified, completely ashamed the first time I had to exchange my body. The guy could have been my grandfather. I mean, it was just really not glamorous, kind of like how they make the sex industry very glamorous. I come home to Boston, my boyfriend picks me up and we come back home. He was living in Cambridge at the time. And we get out of the car and I had a pocket full of money and he puts out his hand. And I knew that meant for me to hand over the money, but I got very confused because that's when I was like, wait, are you my boyfriend? Are you my pimp? Or wait, what's going on here? Like, I was just working in this massage parlor, you weren't even there. And I handed over the money because he said, is there gonna be a problem? And I just said no. And I felt so much guilt and shame, and I obviously wasn't gonna tell my parents what was going on. I didn't feel safe. I wasn't gonna call the police. I mean, I'd be the one arrested for doing the illegal act, and plus I was trying to see like what this was really about. Like, are you my boyfriend? How long am I gonna have to do this? Like, can I stop? And when I started to say I wanted to stop, and that's when the violence came in.
And so for Jasmine, along with violence, there was her control tactics, what they call it, included isolation and emotional manipulation, and those types of things piled on and kept her under the control of her pimp for 5 years. And then we have Rebecca. And for Rebecca, recruitment looked like posting an ad online seeking a ballroom dance teaching position, and then responding to an out-of-state job offer. And then for her, initiation looked like being drugged through her food the first night that she was there, losing her phone and having her contacts deleted, and being put on lockdown in an apartment. And we're gonna let Rebecca tell you a little bit about the control methods that kept her there. Oops, that's not the play button.
I was kept in the apartment, and I didn't have the code to get out. Every time we came back into the apartment, he put in a code, but he wouldn't allow me to see that code so that I could get out. If I tried to open the door, it would go off. So I was not allowed to leave his sight. Even sometimes going to the bathroom, I wasn't even given privacy. This happened for quite a while. I was brainwashed. A lot of verbal assaults against my character, against my ability to do anything right. Just made me feel like I was like low scum. If I looked at another man, I was verbally assaulted, abused, and then later on, in private, I was sexually abused several times.
I'm going to pause that there. And so then from these stories and doing these research too, even as I talked about the issue with people, one of the biggest questions I always found was, who's doing this? Who is buying sex from these women? And the research in Boston shows that actually the average John or sex buyer is a middle-aged white male with a family. And it turns out too in Boston that there are an estimated 250 pimps who exploit an average of 4 to 6 girls each and profit $150,000 to $200,000 each girl per year. And so you can find answers to questions like these on my website. So my main article, which involves, multimedia stuff all along the way and testimony clips, kind of answers all these questions, like where we are today, what does sex trafficking look like in the U.S., how does a woman become exploited? It goes through more of that story and more Rebecca and Jasmine's story, the demand that fuels the industry, who's buying sex, who's selling these women, how does it happen, how do we get here, where are we going, what can we do about it? And so then on the website too, you can access the full survivor testimonies. You can either read narratives of Jasmine and Rebecca's stories. You can also go and watch. I have the full film interviews available online as well. And then additionally, you can go and kind of see a bunch of different resources. You can go check out a lot of nonprofits in the area, nationally and internationally, and kind of see if there's a way to learn more, get more plugged in. They also have a resource page, and this is just a glimpse of some of the stuff that's there, but there's some more short videos where you can learn from Jasmine and Rebecca from their experience, like what are warning signs of sex trafficking, or I interviewed a former NFL player, Steve Fitzu, and he kind of talks about, he does some stuff with the NFL now combating the demand side of sex trafficking. So you can see what he has to say about that too. Or even there's a dictionary of terms, the way Jasmine describes it is it's a totally different world and they have a totally different language. So that also kind of helps you wrap your mind around the issue. And this is the link to my website, and I would just love to open it up for some questions now. First, with a little plug, if you want to learn more, I'm actually helping put on a domestic sex trafficking awareness concert next Saturday, April 30th, 2 to 4 p.m. at Berkeley. And Jasmine's going to be there, one of our speakers, and we have some nonprofits there that are speaking as well. So free concert, free event, you can kind of get plugged in that way too. But I would love to answer questions. Yeah?
You do any research to see how legalizing prostitution can combat sex trafficking?
Yeah, so all the research is against legalizing prostitution because it kind of then creates this front that it's already an underground industry, and then it's just much easier. Like even in Europe, so even those statistics about women who choose prostitution, that even included countries where it is legalized. And so, yeah, even like in countries where it is legalized, like even when I studied abroad in Switzerland, it's legal there, but yet most of the girls that are there in Switzerland are from Eastern Europe and they're all underaged. So it just kind of creates a space for that to happen more prolifically.
Could you speak a little bit about why you chose storytelling as a means for like affecting change?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my major is journalism, and that's kind of what has always been compelling to me. And I feel like with this issue too, at least for me, it's like I could hear somebody talk about anything until they're like blue in the face, and yet if I don't have that connection with a person, it might not seem real. And so my goal with this project was really to kind of invite you into these women's stories and help you connect with them on a very human and intimate and personal level, so that you're changed by it and not just kind of like hear things and maybe learn about it, but hopefully that you create a connection to it, and then maybe that will inspire you to be more engaged in the issue and combating the issue. So, are we done?